this is Shannon from the Education Department. Today we're going to be over the daily emergency equipment checklist with you for the new Zoll R-Series defibrillators that we just rolled out. And just a reminder of everything that needs to be checked every single day on both the defibrillator and the crash cart. So the first thing that we need to look for is that the emergency locks are intact on the outside of the crash cart. So you have one here, and then there's also one down here at the bottom on this crash cart. Some of them only have one, but in this case there is two. So we need to identify the serial number on the lock, and we need to actually document the last 4 digits of that serial number on the documentation sheet that we will be showing you shortly. We also need to look for a backboard, and the backboard is going to be situated at the back of the cart here. It's typically tucked in some slots at the back, so that is another check that needs to be performed daily. The next thing we're looking for is that we have an ambu bag. It should be present, typically hangs on the hooks just off to one side or the other on your cart. And the last check for the top and outside of the cart is going to be your oxygen tank. So you need to make sure there's a regulator on the tank. So that's this piece of equipment right here, so you can easily attach oxygen tubing. And it needs to be in the green, which means that the tank is 100% full. For the items on the top of the cart, you need to identify that there is a binder present. The binder should hold in it several documents, so you need the documentation that we are going over today for your code cart check. You also need the code documentation if there's a code on the unit that we would document on in live time about your patient and everything. And there should be a CLS algorithms also contained within this binder. The next thing that we need to check for is the suction. So we have a suction set up on top of each crash cart. There is a button just on the top here. It's this nice power button right here. We need to push that button and we should hear audible suction. You're also looking to see that the battery is charging, and it should be fully charged because this is typically plugged in at all times. Okay, next check is going to be our defibrillator. So with the Zoll R-Series, we have several checks we need to perform. The first check we're looking for is simply just to see that we have a green check mark in the window here. If you do see a red X in that window, you need to contact Biomed immediately because they will just need to run some diagnostics on the defibrillator. What we're looking for is the serial number on the top of the defibrillator. So we need to locate that, and we need to notate that on the form as well. So we'll start with the manual defibrillator test for our Zoll. There's several parts to this. Part A begins like this. We're simply going to turn the defibrillator onto monitor mode. Once we turn it on, you'll hear those 4 beeps. The next thing that you're looking for in this box right here is that we want our EKG size to be ×1. As you can see, it says ×1.5. So if I wanted to change that, all I'm going to do is go to size here, and I'm going to push that button until it is ×1. The next thing I need to ensure is that it says pads here. So again, if it doesn't say pads, if it's in P1, P2, P3, you just select the lead button until it says pads in the upper right-hand window. The step B in your manual test sequence is going to be to check the defibrillator status. So you need to move your dial over to defib. You then need to make sure that you have a tight connection between your pads and your cable. So you can just do that by ensuring that this is very tight. If not, then you want to make sure that you establish a tight connection before moving on to the next step. From there, we will go over here to energy select. It's going to be defaulted to 100 joules, so we need to drop down to 30 joules. From there, you will go ahead and charge. You'll hear it beeping, charging. We then need to press the shock button. And you'll see that it said test okay on the screen, and we also get a printout up here that tells us that the test was okay, and we passed our defib test at 30 joules. So the first thing that you need to do when you check the pacer, which is the next check, is to unplug the defib pad. So you'll just press down on the button here and pull apart the connection.
Check pads.
After you disconnect your pads, you need to turn your dial from the defib setting over to the pacer setting. Then you need to turn up the rate of the pacer to 150 beats per minute. Once you reach 150, we are going to test the recording. So you'll push the record button, As you push the record button, what you should initially see is that you have spikes coming every second box on your recording paper. From there, you'll push the 4-to-1 button and you'll have a slight delay, but you should soon see that the boxes or the pacer spikes start to show up every 8 boxes as they're doing right now. After that, you can stop recording, turn off the recorder by pushing the recorder button again, and we need to check the outputs. You can see the output is set to 0 right now. We're not getting an alarm that the pads are not connected, but as soon as we turn the MA up to 16, we start to get an alarm that we need to check the pads because they are not connected. We'll clear the pace alarm, and it clears the alarm. It will return until you reconnect the pads. Once you reconnect the pads, if you come over and clear the alarm will clear and it will stay cleared because we have reconnected the pads. The next thing that we need to do is check the recorder. So you'll come over here and push the record button. When you push it, you should see the recording begin. When you push it a second time, we should see the recording stop. We also want to ensure that all of the information on our recording is correct so that the correct date and time is displayed. The correct lead that we have selected on the screen is also displaying on our printout, and that we're seeing whichever mode we're in show up. So right now I'm in pacer mode. You can see the pacer spikes are showing up frequently, just as they are on the screen. So this would tell me that my recorder is reflecting what is on my screen accurately. The last set of items that we need to check for our crash cart check is going to be expiration dates. So we need to check the expiration date of the first drug to expire. We also need to check the first item to expire. On the side of the cart, you have your paralytic agent white box, and you need to note when the paralytic inside is going to expire. The very last item, if applicable to your unit, will be your intubation tote. So that's an orange kind of toolbox that we have for intubation supplies. It's not housed on every unit, but if you do have one on your unit, you'll want to note the expiration date on that as well and document it accordingly.